1 Million campaign is helping people suffering after the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal. The organisation is delivering food. It's also had a conversation with President Cyril Ramaphosa. Jarette Petzer of the Move 1 Million campaign joins me to discuss this. Jarette, very good evening to you. Thanks for taking the time out to speak to us about some of the incredible work that you do. First, tell us what it is that you've seen and what have you been doing behind the scenes.
Hi, Jane. Thank you very much for having me on your show. And I think before we start, I'd just like to send our heartfelt condolences to all of those that have been affected during this very difficult time for our country, and especially towards our Move 1 Million members who have been so proactive to help us deal with this disaster that's unfolded in front of us. As an organisation, we have garnered a significant amount of funding to help drive food security through the KZN in particular, which has been in the hardest affected areas. And we have our members participating in a number of cleanup operations across the country.
And how have you been working alongside the National Aid Relief Programme and people like Gift of the Givers?
Jane, so we've thrown a lot of support behind Gift of the Givers. I think, you know, they're an incredible organisation. They've been operating for several years now, and obviously they are very well equipped to deal with the sort of situation that we're currently facing. So we have gotten behind them in whatever way we can to ensure that we are there for distribution and to make sure that we have participated with them from just making sure that we can help them in their efforts in KZN.
And have I got it right that you did have a conversation with the President, and what came out of that?
No, Jane, we haven't had a conversation with the President at all. We haven't spoken to Cyril Ramaphosa. We do have resources based in Pietermaritzburg, but to my knowledge, no conversations have occurred with President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Okay, well, maybe he'll talk to you now after he heard what you had to say and the good work that you are doing. Tell us a little bit about risk management. I mean, how you assess that and what are you looking at going forward?
Jane, we've worked with a number of security companies across the country to ensure that we've got a smooth flow of... We've worked with a number of companies across the country to make sure that there's limited risk. We've also made sure that we've worked in line with all the protocols and procedures that are currently unfolding with regards to SANDF and all the procedures that are currently underway in our country. And we've... sorry, John. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Jane, I love you there.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you about some of the emotions that I'm sure you've come across. How did people respond? How did they react when they got this food? And what did they tell you about what happened?
Listen, I think it's been a very devastating time for our country. You know, we've got multiple groups on the ground across the country. We've got about 20 groups operational in KZN. And different levels and degrees. You know, if you look at Amanzimtoti, Pietermaritzburg, Phoenix, they've been devastated. So the feedback on the ground is one of fear and anxiety. But you know, we've been there. We've been there to support our members wherever we can, and the community at large. I think it's a very trying time for our country. It's a very sad time for our nation, given the current circumstances, but very appreciative of the relief that they've found. And I think everybody just wants to get through, Jane. Everybody just wants to get through where we are right now and move forward, you know, and get our country out of this turmoil and towards some semblance of normality and law and order.
It's raised many questions about our security. I mean, what have you seen on that front, and what's your call for some sort of national security committee? Well,
Jane, if I'm perfectly honest, you know, there's been very little in the way of security and support from our government. I think if you look at what's unfolded over the last 72 hours or 4 days, it's predominantly been security companies and the public at large that has actually stood faced the challenges that have unfolded over the last few days. I think our government has seriously let this country down. I really believe that the the government has not been there. It's been completely disconnected. It's been slow to respond. It's the people on the ground. It's the Republic itself. It's NGOs like ourselves and Gift of the Givers and security companies that have actually stood up to help our country through this mess. I think it's a shame that we are in the situation, and I find it very difficult to believe that our national security services were unable to identify this threat before it happened. It seems that South Africa is far more in a place of reaction as opposed to being in a place of proactivity and being able to deal with the situation. And it looks like largely it's up to us as the Republic, as people on the ground, to get ourselves through this mess.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Were you heartened at what you saw? I mean, I know, massive organisation such as yours does a lot to uplift people and help them, but what did you see on the ground? I mean, does it give you hope for us going forward?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to take away from this. I think over the last few years, the political parties in our country and political entities have been driving this narrative of racial division, and I think South Africa very clearly came to the fore. When the chips were down, the taxi associations, the public at large, SAPS, and just communities, everyday people like you and I, were the ones that were actually stepping up to take on the challenge. And I think it's very encouraging. We've got to look at our country and say that we've been through so much together over the last 27 years. And if we ever doubted the solidarity, if we ever doubted what this nation could be, we can no longer doubt it, not after what we've just been through. We've had unprecedented levels of violence and disruption. And I've got to tell you that my heart just goes out to the people on the ground in South Africa. It's just incredible to see this country rally at a time such as the one that we're facing, and it gives me hope. It gives me hope. I think that if we as the Republic have been through these challenges and we face these challenges together, I wonder where it takes us to next. I really do.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Very briefly, Jarette, how long do you think people will need aid for? And I know that's a broad question because there's so many different circumstances, but, I mean, is it a couple of weeks? Will it be months? What do you reckon?
Jane, I don't think we're getting accurate information from our governments. I think they're being very skullduggery in terms of the current situation on the ground. There's clearly a political shift happening as we speak. And I think that as the Republic, we cannot afford to sit on our laurels. This is the time for us to make sure that we can continue to strengthen our networks, to make sure that we are working together as a civil society. We don't know how long this is going to last, and we don't know if any other issues are going to flare up. It seems that our central intelligence has got no intelligence whatsoever. It looks like nobody seems to know what's going on. But as the Republic, we were the last line of defense, and it took our government hours and days, if not, to respond to dire need on the ground. So my recommendation to our country would be that we must not sit on our laurels. I think that we should hope for the best, but we should definitely plan for the worst. If anything, we should be making sure that we are strengthening our relationships with our security, our CPF, SAPS, and the communities at large, because we don't really know what's going to happen in South Africa over the next few years, because clearly this initial disruption is not the last disruption we're going to see. There's a huge faction here at play, and we don't know how that's going to unfold. My recommendation to South Africa right now is do not drop your guard. Continue doing what you're doing. Make sure that you are there for your communities and your people, but certainly let's make sure that we continue to strengthen our resources and prepare, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't.
All right, we're listening. Jarette, thank you very much for that.